Hi, my name is Maddie Laveau, and I am going to be presenting a comparison of two popular instructional design models. The models that I selected are the ADDIE model and the Kemp instructional design model. I'll be presenting a side-by-side comparison of each, and I chose to complete my project on a web tool called Padlet. So I'm going to start first with the history of the ADDIE model. The ADDIE model began in the 1970s after it was created by Florida State University's Center for Educational Technology. Originally, it was developed for use by the United States Army, and then it expanded to use in a variety of military branches, and now it is used by instructional designers really at different businesses, colleges, universities, schools, you name it. The Kemp instructional design model was developed by Morrison, Ross, and Kemp, and this model offers a more holistic approach for developing and designing instruction. The first Kemp design model was revised in 1994. So there are steps to both of the models, of course, and they are quite different. So the ADDIE model takes a very linear approach, and ADDIE is an acronym. This acronym stands for Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. So in the analysis stage, this is where the challenges and objectives of a course are really established. Time is spent figuring out learner ability and skill level in order to move forward. From there, design takes place. This is where different concerns are addressed in order to achieve optimal courseware design and development of the training program. Designers might consider course objectives, the content, assessment, use of digital media, and other tools. From there, it moves to the development stage. This is where content is then created by the developers, and in order to develop the instruction, they are definitely going to make sure to use information that was found in both the analysis and design stage. Then it moves into implementation. Procedures are developed for training both instructors and learners. So it's to ensure that those who are teaching the course really have a firm understanding of the content and the lessons, and also thinking about how that will translate to the learner. And then the last step, which is really an ongoing step, is evaluation. So that's where all parts of the design process are going to be considered to make sure that all the goals of the learner are met. And you can see it's very linear through this diagram. It's going to move step by step, aside from that evaluation stage, which really is kind of an integral role in all parts of the instructional design process. Now I'm going to take a couple minutes to talk about the steps of the Kemp model. So unlike the linear ADDIE model, the Kemp model takes a more circular structure, and the model really guides designers to think first about the learner. This model has 9 core elements, and they are thought of as more interdependent than singular. So in the ADDIE model, it's going to go step by step, linear, like I mentioned before. But with the circular model, the designer really has a lot of freedom and flexibility to think about a variety of factors which will affect the instruction. So I'm going to take a moment to pull up the diagram which will explain some of the core elements. Oh, let me just expand my window for a minute. Okay, so this is where we can really take a look at and see the Kemp model in action. So in the middle we have that big circle, and that is going to refer to all of those 9 design elements. So first we have the instructional problems, where just the specific goals and issues are identified. That learner characteristics is another element. So that's where the designers may think about who's going to be enrolled in the course, what type of learner are they, task analysis. That's where really the course content will be clarified in relation to the goals and purposes. Instructional objectives, which is where the learner outcomes again are really going to be thought about, and the specific objectives of the course. Content sequencing, which is of course very important to ensure that all content is organized in a logical manner. The instructional strategies to ensure that all learners can master the content and achieve the learning outcomes. Designing the message to think about which mode of delivery would be most appropriate. Instructional delivery, which selects a variety of approaches and appropriate resources. And then, of course, evaluation elements, evaluation instruments, which are suitable for assessment of the course objectives. Now, I went through in a circle, step by step, but again, it's really important to remember that that would not be the process that would take place in the Kemp model. The instructional designers could go in any order that they want, sometimes maybe even not addressing some of those elements, and other times maybe the elements are being accomplished simultaneously. Okay, so now I'd like to think about the contexts of both models. Both are really flexible and they could definitely be used in many different ways. So the ADDIE model could be used in designing online courses, corporate training, workshops. I could even see it being used for curriculum planning at the K-12 level. And similarly, the Kemp model is also quite flexible and it could be utilized for many of the same reasons: corporate training, online courses, face-to-face courses, and more. So as for the strengths, the ADDIE model is flexible because it can be used in a variety of settings. It also pairs really well with other design models. And the fact that it's linear is a nice starting point for people who are entering that instructional design process, like me and like maybe some of the other people in this course who are really just getting started. Also, that clever acronym makes it really easy for instructional designers to remember each of those steps in the order that they need to go in. So for the strengths of the Kemp model, it's a circular model rather than linear, so it does give instructional designers more freedom and flexibility to think about how they would like to go about that instructional planning process, what order they might want to work in. It's also innovative and it does draw from research on many different disciplines. Now for the weaknesses of the model, or the limitations. So with the ADDIE model, it is a linear approach, which can sometimes be costly and time-consuming. But again, it can be really helpful for people just starting out. Some of the limitations of the Kemp model, since there are more elements in this model, it is more detailed, which you could flip it around and say maybe that's a strength, but it can sometimes seem to be a bit more nuanced than other design models, which do have that more straightforward linear approach. This model might also be more difficult for new designers to use, since it doesn't have that linear approach, and it might seem a little bit confusing to decide what the starting point is with those 9 elements. So I could definitely see the strengths of using each of these models. I think also it's probably something that comes to personal preference once you enter the field, once you determine the needs of the learners and the course objectives, to kind of figure out what works for you. I think personally I would do better using the ADDIE model because I am a person who really likes step-by-step directions to have a clear path, but I know other people might really like the freedom and flexibility of that Kemp instructional design model. I do have a couple references that I just wanted to share with you. They are at the final part of my presentation. So I'm excited to see some of the other models that other people in this class have selected and learn a little bit more about those. Thank you.